All right, we've got another episode of Oak and Rock Fatherhood coming at you. I am your host, Zachary Small, joined by Anthony Migliorino from peacefulfathers.com. Anthony, what's going on, brother?
What's happening, Zach?
All sorts of things, man, and we're going to dive right into it. The government is coming after our kids. What's the deal?
It's a good topic, brother.
So we're going to go head on, man. I think we should just have this discussion. We should dive right into it.
Oh.
You're dead to me.
You're losing me?
You're dead to me. Your internet was going so strong. What the fuck just happened?
Am I back?
You are.
Did you hear me?
Went all fucking. You went weird for a minute.
Maybe it's the topic.
It's the NSA. Right. All right, I'm going to kick this back off. I'm just going to cut this section out. Oh, my God.
Oh, God. I never laugh as much as when I do this shit. All right, let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Oak and Rock Fatherhood. I'm your host, Zachary Small. Today I'm joined by Anthony Migliorino. Anthony, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, Zach? How we doing?
I say today I'm joined by, like I'm not joined by you in every damn episode of these things. So Oak and Rock Fatherhood is run by Anthony and myself. It's a partnership. We brought the Family Alpha along with Peaceful Fathers to create this resource where we talk about being a better father for your children, being a better man in society and for your family. Now, Oak, strong roots, strong trees, rock, hard. That's what we're teaching men to be. And by teaching those men to be that thing, you allow them to be the example for their spouse, their children, their community. We see everyone grow when we get the man to grow himself. Now, what we're seeing today, and the topic of today's discussion, is how the government is going after the kids. Because we have these men getting strong and growing these deep roots. We have these men and these parents standing up for what they believe to be true. And because we can't get, or the government can't get these people to bend the knee and do what they want them to do and think the way they want them to think, they're going around them to the kids. They're hitting the kids in the school. They're hitting the kids everywhere. Recently, they hit the kids with Sesame Street. You know, and that sounds funny. It is funny because it's fucking Muppets, man. You know, we're talking about these very friendly things we all grew up with. But with this whole vaccination thing they have going on, and they have Big Bird telling kids, it's not that bad. My wing hurts just a little bit. Go ahead and go get the vaccination. It's a good thing to do. Parents are getting pissed. And these people are mocking them. Oh, you're mad at the Muppet. You're mad at Big Bird. Look at you, you loser. No. Don't make a joke out of this. You're trying to make light of a situation. You're trying to make a joke out of something that's very serious. Because these parents aren't doing what the government wants them to do, they're trying to get the kids to start rising up beneath the parent. So you've got top down from government and employers and these businesses, and now you've got bottom up. Little Susie and Johnny, little kids are saying, hey, mom and dad, you're the bad guy for not getting me vaccinated. Big Bird said it's good. Why are you being bad and not listening? So we're going to dive into that because it is serious. And we're going to talk about ways that you can sort of find your way to freedom and outside of this little race that they want you stuck in. But Anthony, I know you hadn't heard about the Muppet thing, but what are your thoughts on how this whole vaccination process, the mandates, has played out specifically with regards to the kids and how they've sort of angled it at them, especially with the whole, now it's authorized for 2 years old and up?
I think of right away, get them while they're young. That's what comes to my mind. That has been one of the evil plots throughout history, right? To get the child's minds when they're young. And it's strange to see how much division there is in the home, right? How the government is bypassing the parents and getting to the kids. I think eventually there will be a shift. Like men are going to stand up. You just saw the mothers stand up. They pissed off the mama bear. The mama bear is protecting her cubs, and we've seen that. We're seeing it happen. Right? Parents are speaking out. What drives me crazy though sometimes is we see this country where the government comes in and they say we're going to take 30% of your income, and we say, okay, yeah, I guess we need schools and roads. Well, now if you make any money outside of out of payroll, right, of any investments, we're going to take another percentage of that. If you go over a certain bridge, we're going to take another percentage. If you die, we're going to get percentage from your family. And we somehow just accept all this, right? We never question it really. Well, few of us question it. And I think it's scary because, I teach my kids about freedom all the time. I teach them how important it is to be a free individual, to be an autonomous individual, to go on your own path in life. And we see that these freedoms have slowly been eroded by the government, by the people who are controlling and ruling over us. And one thing I always focus on, or always think about, that kind of gets my wheels spinning, and I try to figure out ways around this crap, this bullshit that's going on. One thing I always fall back on is there is one true freedom, right? There's one thing that the government can never get, and that is control of my mind, of my thoughts. I'm always in charge of that. People do come in and enter and can shift and change and manipulate, but the reality is those are my thoughts, right? That's my real freedom to decide what my attitude is going to be towards how I live my life. And I think it's scary when you see this happening, because now they're starting to go and control what kids think, and they're bypassing the parents, and that is entering into our home. And it could be from Sesame Street, it could be from any kind of social programming, but now it's really like they're not even hiding it. It's out in the open, and out in the open. They're not, it's obvious what's happening. And to a degree, I guess it needs to happen, right? We need to have parents wake up and say, whoa, what is going on? I thought these people, I thought the government cared about me. They give me Social Security. They give me Medicaid and Medicare. Why are they going after my kids? So it's scary when you think about it.
Well, that's the thing too. It is a little scary because now you're like, well, I didn't have any of these discussions with my kids. I didn't have any talks with them, so they had no defense to this. So these parents are looking at the kids like, well, how could you turn out like this? Hey, mom and dad, you weren't talking to them about any of it. You kept telling them, don't worry about it. This doesn't concern you. You would turn off the news. You would do these things you thought was protecting them, but you were never treating them like the future man and woman they would become. And we've been stressing that since day one on this channel. Your children are capable of so much more than you give them credit. They are going to become an adult man and an adult woman, and they don't learn how to be that person at 18 years old. You groom them for that. You start teaching them along the way. And then when it comes to that point of they're like, all right, I'm going to head out into my own, they have all the skills they need. And most importantly, they've got a relationship they can fall back on with their parent that'll allow them to just live out their best selves and be capable to perform, as they should. And that's one of the things that we have to ensure we're looking on right here when we're trying to judge our kids. If you're not teaching them of what's going on and you're not having those conversations, well, Big Bird is. Nature doesn't like a vacuum. So if you're not going to talk to them when they go to Camp Kikiwaka, if they go to Sesame Street, I'm trying to think of what kids have. All these things are fair game. You go on Paw Patrol. How long before they're getting their shots? Hey, it's a good thing, kid. You need this. And your child who is in no risk of COVID, who should get COVID and be able to get through it and just go back in the merry way like my kids did and had no issue. If you look at all the stats out there, kids are not at risk. Why are we trying to convince them they need something? What is there to be gained? And in that, you can peel the layers back and you can obviously answer that for yourself. But the big thing I want to highlight is they want the family unit divided. And they can't get the parents who are awake. So they're going to the kids to fracture their impressionable minds. And they know a lot of parents aren't doing their due diligence when it comes to connecting with their kids and saying, what'd you learn about in school today? Hey, what are your friends talking about? What'd you watch on TV today? They know parents aren't doing this because they know with surgical precision, they have set it up to where parents are more focused on how they are perceived on social media and all their distractions with Netflix, that if they can have their kid blowing up on the inside saying, well, you didn't get me vaxxed, you're a bad parent, that parent doesn't want that to reflect in their social media account. And so that parent's going to give in. And that's how they're going to beat you, because you're so obsessed with your social media profile and your appearance and the validation you get from others and your nice little tight family unit that you have, that you're not going to do the work and say, hey, this is why I'm standing against this. Hey, we need to have a hard talk. And it might blow up publicly. You might have a public fallout with your kid where you're like, hey, sorry, kid, you're not playing baseball. You're not doing this sport because I don't think you have to get this vaccination to compete in that endeavor. We're not going to do that. You're going to take this year off. We'll train at home, whatever. Because parents are so focused on that perception of having their shit together, That's how they're going to try to get this. And that's how it's going to work, because these parents are going to give in, because these kids are going to be relentless, because they're being convinced it's the right thing. The kids think they're doing the right thing. And so you can't be mad at the kid because you never gave them a counter argument. They had no idea why it's a bad decision or why it goes against your things, unless you're willing to have those talks in your home and combat idea for idea and let them see, where, let the chips fall where they may. And for your child to be prepared. And hopefully, if you're watching this and you haven't had that talk, be ahead of the curve, be armed against this, the psyops that are going on. You're going to see the fallout in a manner that you don't want. You're going to see this come at you in a way that a lot of preventable stress is going to be felt. And it's because you stood your ground, but you didn't arm your family to do the same.
Yeah, Zach. And this is, there's underlying things to why this happens, right? This isn't just happening because government's big or who's president. This has been going on for a long time. And, it's something within your home, right? And I always say this, that if you're going to use force to make your child obey, right? Use aggression and force to make them obey, then you're setting up what society is going to look like in the future. Imagine if your home is based on threats or it's based on bribes, and all you do is try to condition your kid to behave a certain way or act a certain way based on what you want because you're the authority. Well, what do you think is going to take shape in the future, right? What are you going to see citizens act like? They're going to have a big government, mommy and daddy, who's going to say, hey, we need you to do this. And if you step out of line, we're going to punish you, right? If you go too fast on that road, you're going to have to pay for it. If you go and get a COVID vaccine, we'll give you a donut, right? There's all these punishments and bribes and rewards that we give people to comply. And to me, that, again, that's not being a free person, right? I want to live on my own terms. I want my kids to live on their own terms. Way back in the days, this is how men thought, right? We want a government to protect us against foreign invaders, domestic terrorists. We didn't want them to tell us everything we had to do at every moment of the world because they know what's best for us. And I still don't understand why a lot of parents don't see this connection, why they don't see that the abuse they're enforcing in their home is showing up later on in society. It's something we need to be aware of. And I do personally believe that the more we can raise our kids peacefully, the more that we can take the time to explain things to them, to have them think critically, not always tell them, what to think, but how they should be thinking. When we take that time, I believe that you'll see the government diminish, right? Their power, their control over the average citizen will be reduced because that's not what good people want. They don't want other people controlling their lives. Perfect example is a woman who is married to a man who's abusive. We see it clear as day, right? Get out of that relationship. Run for the hills. Go stay with somebody. Don't stay in that relationship. But when we have a parent who does it, we accept it, right? Oh, you're disciplining that kid. You're teaching them a lesson. When we have the government that does that, oh, you broke the law. Well, what is the law based on, right? Laws change all the time. Laws are arbitrary. They're not based on truth. Unfortunately, a lot of them now are generating money. So we're just part of this tax system where they're actually stealing our money through threats and force and pushing it up to the top. So to make that connection, I think is important to understand. It's not just simply raising your kids in a peaceful home. It's going to show up in society later on. And we have to be aware of that.
No, it's pure laziness. If you really boil it down, these parents, I'm just going to do this because this is the easiest way to do this. It's easier for me to hit you and not explain things. It's easier for me to just go along, get along, just get the shot. Things are easier. Just get the second shot. Just get your fifth shot. It's just easier. You get to keep your job. Things go smooth. They'll keep letting me watch Netflix. They'll keep letting me do my thing. And you just keep going and going and going and giving and giving and giving. And you forget who you are at all because you've based everything upon what is maximizing your comfort and removing all confrontation from your life. And that is not living. That is fear-based existing, if even existing. Something you just said that connected some dots that probably should have been connected like years ago, but they just hit, like a lightning bolt, is the fear, man. As you were talking, I realized I don't want my kids afraid of authority. I don't want my kids afraid of me, but because I don't want them afraid of me, I don't want them afraid of cops. I don't want them afraid of politicians. I don't want them afraid of fucking anybody. Because when you're afraid of what they can do to you, you're like, oh, I don't want you upset. I don't want you mad, whatever it is. I will obey because your happiness is what I need in my life. You're happy. That makes me happy. Fuck no. Fuck that to the fullest degree. My kids don't need me to be happy for them to be happy. The easiest example I always give is baseball versus football. I don't give a fuck what sport my kids play as long as he's happy playing his sport. Same with my daughter. Do you? Your happiness makes me happy. My government should be happy when I'm fulfilled, not vice versa. I should not be a fulfilled citizen because my government's smiling. Fuck no. My government consists of people that have been elected by my peers. And if they're not doing their job, they should get the fuck out. The problem is our system doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, so many of my peers, not all of them, and I chose, I've got my Phil Foster hat. I've got my Don Hickman shirt. Free thinkers are dangerous. I'm rocking the swag of men who stand against this. Not all of my peers, but many of them are living in so much fear, but flexing such bravado that they don't even see the absolute laziness required to actually do some work. It's easy to go online and say things. It's easy to sit in your house and be like, I'm a free American. 9 boosters, please. And make me get in line to go get my work. And I get to you give me permission to keep my job because I got shot with the COVID come and the juice you want to inject into my body. Like there's so much to this that it's.
How much of my paycheck can I keep?
Am I allowed to buy this? What do you mean? Am I allowed to buy this? You're a grown man, and it blows my mind. All these men have to do is take some action. All you have to do is step back. You wrote a piece on raising the next nice guy. And I think that inspired the shit out of me. It inspired me to write my version of that, which is, well, you covered the nice guy in relationships. I wanted to cover the lifestyle that overbearing parents were setting for their kids, and they were raising government drones. So the way you're talking about nice guys, I was talking about government drones and how you're creating children who are like, yes, thank you, may I have another? Yes, please, I'll do everything you say. Just don't hit me. Don't yell at me. Don't be mad. If that's how you run your home in a fear-based society, if a fear-based home, that's how you create a fear-based society. Exactly like you said. These kids are afraid of their parents being upset. They're afraid of the government being upset. My kids aren't afraid of me being upset because they can't really get me upset. They're kids. They're growing and learning. That's not going to bother me. They should go and flex and do their independent things and learn the way of the land. I don't see how I'm raising kids who will want the government to be happy. I fucking hope they don't.
No, the goal would be to raise kids who want to make themselves happy. They want to be responsible for their lives. And ultimately, that's, one of the pillars of freedom is you don't impose your will on other people, right? To be free individuals, we have to accept what we see in the world. We have to accept capitalism, free trade, let people interact how they want. Yeah, some people, might get the lesser half of the deal, but that's what they want. So it's an even exchange. Right now, we have the government controlling everything. They control commerce. They control the money. They're printing trillions of dollars, seems like every day now. And they're devaluing our money. They're devaluing the US dollar. And what that does, it increases the cost of living. And people don't understand this, right? They want to fight for minimum wage. They want the government to fix a problem that they've created. The government's inflated the money supply. The cost of living goes up. And they say, hey, you know what? The government fucked this up. Let's have them control wages now. Maybe if we get paid $15 an hour, everybody's lives will be changed. It's not how it works. And it can't work that way. The only thing that's going to get you out of poverty, that's going to help you succeed is, I would say, one is going to be education. Educate yourself, learn economics, and not what they teach you in schools, right? Learn about finance, learn about money, learn how money works. We have this somewhat of a digital revolution going on with Bitcoin.
Do you think they're teaching that in school?
No.
No, you don't think they're going to even touch that one in school, huh?
No, I don't think they want to. It's not going to be beneficial to the agenda. right? They're going to teach critical race theory and how important it is to obey. That's really Bitcoin is, or cryptocurrency in general is going to completely disassemble all credibility with the government. When we have a money that increases in value, if we can exchange openly and freely, and if I gave you $5,000 in crypto, and then in 5 years, instead of that $5,000 losing purchasing power, it's going to be able to buy 10 times more. We haven't seen that in so long. I'm talking hundreds of years. So I think to where that ties in with the freedom thing and, with raising our kids properly, have those discussions. All my kids trade Bitcoin. They all have stacks. They've been in it for a while. They all know that taxation is theft. They all know about ending the Federal Reserve, audit the Federal Reserve. They want accountability from their government because they have accountability in their own lives. We have accountability in our family. If I mess up or I make a mistake, I own it, right? If I'm angry or frustrated, I don't take it out on my kids. I don't threaten them. I don't hit them. I don't make them feel like shit so I can feel better. I handle things properly. If there's something going on within me, I fix that. I don't dump it on my kids. Same thing with crypto or whatever, public schooling, private schooling, whatever you do. I mean, there's a massive movement to homeschool now. People are starting to put the pieces together. And we always push back against the government, but I think what it ultimately comes down to is whatever happens or whatever's going to happen, there will be good people who come together for freedom. It's always been that way, and it's always going to continue to go that way. I don't care what happens. And it might sound unrealistic, but that is what I tell my kids, right? Just continue to do good, continue to build yourself up. Don't worry what's going on outside. Focus right here. Be centered. Keep building you. And life's gonna work out. Things are gonna go well. Don't worry.
I'm also a very positive individual. Oftentimes when we have these conversations, dude, like you can't bring me down. Like it's literally impossible. It's not going to happen. Like I will find a way. If I've got to blow it up, I'll build it again. That's sort of just how I operate.
Burn it down.
But one of the things I'm thinking of with the kids, there's sort of two classes. There's those who have parents that are engaged, that operating the way we're operating is we've been teaching them along the way. So when stuff like this happens, I talk to my kids about it. I talked about the vaccine. I talked about all sorts of things. The other day, my son was asking, what's "Let's Go Brandon" mean? And we had that conversation. Like these little things that are, he's 12. It's kind of like right at that age where he's kind of like getting adult jokes and stuff, but also my daughter's 9 and she's somewhat completely oblivious to all this. She doesn't care. She's very happy to come home to our dogs and our cats and doing her cheerleading and gymnastics. And that's her life with her friends, as it should be. I don't concern her with these things. But when we do talk, especially at the dinner table, we'll have family meetings. We do things like that. We'll do family movie. We all sit around and watch a movie. We'll talk about things before and after as well. And that's something that I think is incredibly important and something that I think will be a great routine for those who aren't already doing it to start. Giving an open arena for these discussions to happen. Because if you don't have an environment that's conducive to a discussion like, hey, I saw on TV I should get a vaccination. I don't know how I feel about it. Am I supposed to do that or not? If they don't know when they can bring that up, that conversation kind of gets tucked in and repressed because they don't want to make you mad and they don't know that they can talk about it. So I think a great way for parents to start this is, where do I begin? Well, you start with having a place for your kids to talk. You start with talking to your kids and getting ahead of things. You don't come in hot and heavy because you're frustrated. Take that out in the gym. Go to the gym, lift, and then talk to your kids. Because you do have a lot in your head. And if you haven't been talking this whole time, you're going to want to word vomit and prepare them for the world. It's a drip feed. Hey, just so you know, here's why I think this. Just let it settle. Let them ask questions. Next day, all right, now, do you have any questions about that? Or what do you think? Or you really start to speak to them the way you and I would sit across the table and be like, hey, man, like, what are you thinking about this? What does the future look like? What moves are you making? That's how I talk to my kids. The topics are age appropriate, but that's exactly the level of respect I give them. And I think that'd be great advice for parents who are looking to start like, hey, I've sheltered my kids from all this, but now, I'm thinking about pulling them out of school. I'm thinking about, monitoring what they're watching, or at least preparing them to be armed against things they might see that they're watching.
Yeah, you have to have those important conversations. Um, there is a reason why they're targeting kids. There's a reason why this is happening, and why the level of degeneracy is just being targeted at younger and younger ages. In order for evil plans to work, kids need to be removed from the parents, and I don't mean just physically, but from their influence, from their attachment. So you're not going to go and fight the government, right? You're not going to, I might have people disagree with me on this, but you're not going to go vote for a better life. You're not going to go push a button and think that you actually made change. What you do is, like you said, Zach, you have the conversations with your kids, but you also make sure that you're parenting properly. You make sure that you're not stressing them out, talking about all the bad things that are going on, right? They don't need to hear your worries. You can have a conversation, but they don't need to hear your fears. And if you are afraid, that's something that you need to work within, right? We had a whole episode about inner peace and peaceful home. So the more that you can change the environment in your home, where you're not so distracted, you're not even distracted, you're not wishing that somebody else is going to fix the country, somebody else is going to fix your state, and you're going to go be part of it by pressing a button. You're focused more on, like you said, what you're doing in the home, what you're doing with your family, who's starting a business, who's picking up a new hobby. This is all growth. This is all, these are things like I can't even keep up with half the things my kids do. I don't know who's going, who's coming. The doors are open and shutting. There's check out this website. Did you go on this TikTok? I made these cookies. I made this pot. I'm playing this sport. And it sounds overwhelming, but it's great. Like, just go, keep going. Don't be distracted. Don't be pulled down by all the bullshit. And the only way that happens is as a father, if you're not letting that garbage into your mind, right? It's important, like I said before, to be educated and understand what's going on, but don't let it consume you. Don't let it change your actions, right? Don't say, all is hopeless, right? I have to stay in this job. I don't know what else to do. I have to obey these laws. And let me retract that. Don't break any laws. I don't want anybody going to jail listening to me spout my nonsense. But you, to a degree, you do have to start questioning things. You do have to start taking ownership of your life and not letting some imaginary word called government control everything you do. Have it instill fear in your kids and into your home. You have to recognize it, and it has to stop.
And you have to not think, what, I don't matter. I'm just one guy. What do I matter? Well, you matter because you're a part of a long list of dudes. If you don't obey and somebody else doesn't obey and somebody else doesn't obey and they say, hey, this is wrong. Well, right now, the only reason wrong is getting by is because wrong is popular. It doesn't mean it's right. Just a lot of people are supporting wrong things. But if enough people said, no, that's wrong, I'm not doing that. If you could get that a million times over, well, guess what? That's a million individuals who stood up and their families. This would be over like that. The only reason this is still going on is because everybody's still listening. From the beginning, dude, I was dealing with the cops on week 1 of all this shit because I kept running baseball practices. Do you remember that? Like,
I remember.
Dude, I'm sitting there, I'm running YouTube videos. I'm like, hey, I had to talk to the cops today because I'm trying to keep these kids active because everybody's telling them to sit down and hide from each other and they're terrified. I'm like, no, dudes, come on out. Yeah, like the worst thing in the world. So I didn't even slow down. This shit made me angrier to do more. But you see it. You absolutely see the hypocrisy that's going on because these parents will bring their child maskless to a sports game and they'll all watch football, they'll all watch baseball, they'll all watch these sports, and then you'll see them talk about how they need to get the vaccine because that's how you keep people safe. I'm like, you just put your child with kids from across the community, family members from across the fucking state all together, and you were totally fine. But you want the appearance of wanting to obey and comply and be a good citizen. Look, obeying the government doesn't make you a good citizen. Oh. And that's what needs to be broken away. America was founded upon a revolution. Revolution is our DNA. We don't have the culture that like some African places, some old European places, even Eastern European, the Eastern Asian as well. They can go back so far. Look at Japan. Look at all these places. You're like, man, your culture lasts forever. America's culture is bringing everybody together and saying, fuck you, don't tell me what to do. That is American culture. That is what we are. That our culture is revolution. So when you're obeying, you don't need to be obeying the current elected officials. You need to obey, what we are founded upon, our core values, equality, freedom, sovereignty. That's what we obey. That is what I follow, at least. I am following those mantras, those mindsets that those men had. I want you to leave me alone and let me build my empire or destroy my empire, my own. As long as I'm not going out of my way and fucking anybody else's worlds up, which I'm not,
Yep.
Then let me do me. That's what the point of being an American is. That's why so many people are trying to get here. But if we start trying to bend the knee to be like other people, I don't want to be like other countries. I've seen what happens. The writing is on the wall. You see people constantly making videos of like, hey, if we stay down this path, that's where we're headed. Look, save your children by saving yourself. Save your entire family by choosing to stand up, and don't be like, oh, the Sesame Street thing's not that big of a deal. Everything's a big deal when you put it all together. But they're not going to go at you with a million things at once. They're going to go at you 1 degree at a time. They're going to go at you with, hey, you should do this. Well, that means I don't have to. Well, you have to, but you should. Well, wait a minute. Those are two different things. What are you really saying here? And then make sure you're following, like you said, you can break rules without breaking laws. You can do a lot of things without actually doing something that's going to put you in jail. And a lot of that is standing up when everybody's telling you to sit down. You should speak up. All those parents who've spoken up at all those teacher conferences against critical race theory, they stood the fuck up and said no. All the parents that stood up against, and they ran against all the elected officials on school boards who were pushing masks on toddlers. And they took over the thing and said, first thing we're doing is wiping out the masks. They stood up. And all those other parents are cheering them on, but none of those parents joined them. It took a few people to stand up when everybody else was sitting down to change things. If you want to protect your kids, you have to be a parent who's willing to stand up for yourself. You got to stand up for you. And when you do that, and two dudes like us talking on YouTube, when we normalize the conversation on fatherhood, all of a sudden they'll have 50 dudes talking about fathers. Inside the fraternity of excellence, all the dudes coming together for the weekly fatherhood call. It's now normal. When before joining that group, before having the conversation with you, Anthony, it was weird and taboo. But when one dude changes our perspective on it, now it's fucking normal. It's taboo to not talk about being a dad inside FOE. If you don't talk about being a father, you're fucked up and you're hiding something. That's the new angle we have. It's like, you better be talking about it. But in society, we're still working on the mainstream adoption of that.
Yeah, no, that's spot on, man. We need to definitely open the fatherhood conversations up more and more. But going back to the government, I love talking about my rights being trampled. What you were saying before, right? There's freedom, liberty. There's principles we have to live by. And I think if we go back to founding fathers, they had, it wasn't perfect, but they had a pretty good number of 10, right? The Bill of Rights. And there was a good foundation of what they wanted to build and the world that they saw. If you look, back then, there were laws that were immoral, right? There was slavery. The government enforced enslaving people. It was a law. Even to this day, in certain areas of the world, women are treated as second-class citizens, right? They can't drive cars. It's a law. And people, because of their culture, they follow it blindly, obediently. And it's sad to see. So, I always point out the obvious, right? Don't hit your kids. And people go crazy. They say, what do you mean? How are you going to discipline them? They're going to be misbehaved. They're going to, they're not going to be good kids if I don't hit them. Again, you have to look at the exceptions, right? We can't hit anybody. You can't hit a complete stranger. You go to jail. If you hit your kid, people accept it. There's no laws in the United States stopping people from hitting their kids. There are some corporal punishment laws, but to me, it's always the exception, right? The government back in 1776 got their ass handed to them, the British government, because they were taking 3% tax on imports. And the men were willing to fight and die for that. Now the government says, we're the best. We care about you. We want to help you. We're going to take half of your income for your own good. And people accept that. They understand that exception. They allow it. It's still theft, right? Anything you don't want done to you, I don't care if 99% of the people want it. If I don't want it, that's my freedom. That's my liberty. It's my property. It's me. It's who I am. And we have to instill those values in our kids. We have to let them know there are no exceptions for anybody violating their freedoms, anybody violating their property, their body. There's no exception to that. Never will be. There's never going to be. The moment we do, that's when the doorway opens up, right? We give them a little bit, and then they come in and they say, "Oh, we're gonna just tax the rich," and then the middle class get taxed, and now there's too many people paying taxes. And because they just steal the money from us, there's no budget, right? They don't. There's no accountability. They just keep spending. They keep printing. It's it is such a crazy world. And the point I'm going to make, you were talking about revolution. The revolution, I believe, is going to be a digital revolution. Going back to Bitcoin, it's going to be one where people can protect their money again. They can, and money is nothing more than your labor and your time and your energy. It's a trade-off. So when people have that power back, when they can limit government power by controlling their money, not having banks charge them exorbitant amounts for interest. Actually, the interest rate is super low right now. But to remove that power from the government, I think that's going to be the next revolution. That's when you're going to start to see more change, smaller government. You're going to see people start taking control of their lives. You're going to see fathers start taking control of their lives. And they're going to be able to lead their family better, because that is an added pressure, right? Being the head of the household and having a huge government completely pushing you down every day, every week. It's a struggle, man. It's real. A lot of men suffer from it.
That's a really good point. And that's something I wanted to highlight in this episode that I completely forgot until just now. These men who are leading these families and wanting to do well, while they might have missed the conversation with their kid, like I said, they might have been one of those ones who, I wanted to protect my kids, and now they got it from Sesame Street or whatever, and now I've got to figure that out. The weight that's on their shoulders should not be completely dismissed. These men making decisions on, well, should I get this vax to keep the steady income versus that, or should I fight against it and then start looking for employment from some of the companies that are still taking a stand? It does come with a cost. There is a cost to this. And if you had nothing to lose, then it didn't really require much bravery on your end to do. Courage isn't taking a stand against zero consequences. Courage is going out there with, if you lose, some bad things could happen, but you still take a stand. That's courageous. That's bravery. The men we're seeing doing these things that are taking a stand, there is a lot to lose. And I see it's one of those things. If you don't think in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about, all right, with internet censorship rolling around, all right, what are the workarounds there? Like, that's obviously with the world we're living in, one of the things I'm looking at. It's like, all right, so like, how do you pivot from that? And dude, like I said, if they blow all of this up, they blow up FOE, TFA, Oaken Rock, they just nuke it, I will be fucking doing whatever I need to do in this town at a job until I build it back up, and I will build it back up, and I'm smarter than I was, so it'll grow even faster. There is nothing that anybody can do that'll lead to me compromising my beliefs and my values. And that cost is something that more men need to accept. Hey, this could turn out bad, but I'm going to go with what I believe in, because if I look back later on in my life and say, well, what did I do when the pressure came down to go back to the Revolutionary War? Did I go with the British because they were the jack dudes, the big ass Navy, and these guys were hardcore, and that's how we used to live, and they were going to take care of us if we just went over? Or would I stand for what I believed in? And with this ragtag group of dudes who probably are going to lose. They're led by this badass dude named George Washington, but they're probably going to get their asses kicked because there's not a lot of them. They're not very well armed, and they don't know what the fuck is going on. They just made themselves up and said, hey, we're an army today. So it really comes down. In our heads, we paint ourselves as the hero. Fathers are like, I will rise to the occasion. I'm Leonidas. I'm the dude who kicks some ass. I'm the guy in Die Hard who kicks, like, blows everybody up and shoots him like, bye, motherfucker, whatever the fuck it is. I'm that guy. And now is the time to show up and to put in that work and to do that thing and take your stand and be like, no, not today. You're not going to shoot my kids up with whatever this experimental shit is. They don't need it. I'm not going to have to get this for my job. Like, that's stupid. Like, we're going to go about this and we're going to do it my way because this is what right is. And if you have a problem with that, then I'm not a good fit in your company. I'm not a good fit in your little world you have going on here. I'm going to leave and I'm going to build myself up in a new one. That is heavy. It's not fucking easy to pick your family up and disappear a fucking shit ton of miles, 100 miles, thousands of miles, and start over. Some men are willing to do that. It's not easy to say, hey, sorry, job, I'll find a fucking new one. I'm not going to stay here if you're going to require me to go against myself. Some men are doing that. More men that can do that, the more that rise up. If we can push back enough and get enough men to take that stand, you'll see that these men will look back on themselves years from now, and they're not going to have the regret many others do. Because when this does play out, and I truly believe that good will win, and this will right itself. There might be a long time in between, but I do believe we will find ourselves in a situation in my lifetime where we look back and we're like, hey, we're back to what right looks like. Some men will look back and be like, yeah, that sucked, but I did it right. You know, and their kids, their grandkids, they will have that same fire in them to be like, when it's my turn, when our kids are tested, when my child and my grandchildren are tested, they will stand up against tyranny as well. And some men will look back and be like, shit, I joined the Nazis because they were there. Shit, I joined the British. I joined the tyrannical ones telling the other ones that I'm here for your good. I'm oppressing you for what's best for you. That's not how that works. You know, and it's my hope that we can get to those men before they find themselves making a decision that ultimately they'll never be able to unmake.
I think you're right, Zach. And we've spoken about this before. You know, it starts again in the home. But we were talking about this with Lilia on the podcast also, how we're coming together and these conversations are happening, and this has never been done before. There's never been a group of men who are dialed in, who are centered and squared away, saying, hey, I've conquered my finances, I've conquered my marriage, I've built a home. I need to dial in my fathering, right? I need to be a better father. It's just something that we haven't seen. And going back to what you were saying about where we're at now and the reason to have hope for the future is because previously kids were mistreated, kids were abused, kids were treated horribly. Lloyd Demas has a great book on this, The Origins of Child Abuse with War. And for centuries, excuse me, kids have been mistreated. They've been abused. They've been sexually abused, physically abused. And we've seen the product of that environment, right? We've seen what has come of that, right? We've have these cycles that they say we go through, but we've created a lot of really weak men. And I truly believe that in the next maybe 20, 30, 40 years, we're going to see a breed of young people that are going to far surpass what we've seen in the past. And it's not a common theme because everybody says kids these days are fucked up. Kids are lazy. They're stupid. They don't work hard. But you know, as well as I know, that those kids are just a reflection of their parents. The people I run with, the men that I share my time with, they don't talk about their kids like that. They talk about everything we were just speaking about today, right? To see their kids do good things, to grow and expand and really be a good person. So I do think in the future you'll see that, right? What you were talking about. The world will get better. The kids will be stronger. The fathers are going to be stronger. The family unit will come back and things will change. Absolutely.
No, I completely agree. And again, it's only if people apply what we're talking about here. So listen, the government is coming for your kids. That is a fact. The government is coming for the kids because they can't get to the parents. Some of them have stood their ground and they've made it clear, I will not bend the knee. So their approach is to go around, infiltrate the back door, get the kids and try to blow the house up from the inside. That won't happen if you've armed your kids with the knowledge to walk over to that door and shut it. So when the government tries coming in through their minds, they already have the key and the door is already locked. They're going to say, not today. I know what you're trying to do. That's not going to happen in this home because I spoke with my dad and my dad told me what's going on here. and I'm aware, I'm prepared, and I'm educated. They can't get the kids if dad is standing his ground with the kids. When you're standing there with them to your left and to your right, you see the big picture. The father's in the middle. He's got the shield, got the spear, his wife by his side, his kids behind him. That's what you have to be. And sometimes it's the spear. Go out and attack. Kids don't have to worry about it. You're out there hunting. Sometimes it's the shield. And that's when you got to grab them close and you got to put that thing over everybody and protect everybody. That's where you're at with what they're doing here. They're trying to get to their minds. They're trying to go through and backdoor you. Be the shield. Protect them. Let them know. Educate their minds. Give them defenses. Give them the tools needed to defend themselves when they're out in public, when they're in school, when they're with their friends, when they're watching TV. It won't even be a thing. You'll save yourself so much heartache, and you'll save yourself the potential of losing your child to someone else filling that void. The government is not their father. You are. So do your job, and you won't have any issues.